Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and with me today is a friend, Mr. Justin Mirigliani. He is the CEO of Checkmates Charitable Association. Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jacalyn, great to see you again.
Great to see you too. It's been a little bit of a while since we saw each other on the TV program, and I'm wondering how you're doing, how you feeling?
Doing okay. I think, like everybody else, it's starting to wear on me a little bit with the pandemic, having to see people from a distance and having our kids, not being able to go back to school. So, but getting there.
And for those who don't know, you're in New Jersey, and New Jersey's had, it's been a little more strict here than other places in terms of inside dining, fitness centers, going back to school. So you're saying that your children are not in school.
They won't be going back until January, actually, at the earliest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in addition to being a husband and a father and the CEO of this phenomenal charity, you are also an author, a business owner, and you've had some pretty extensive health issues that you've shared. And you've also had some incredible accomplishments that you've shared as well. So where should we start?
Well, right now I'm really trying to concentrate on my business because with the charity, it's so hard because we really can't have events. You knew about the NHL celebrity alumni game that we were going to have in April, and I've been looking for a window to try to find a way to do that. It's just not happening right now. So that's on hold for the time being. So, I've dedicated the last few months to more of my business. I try to help people start their own businesses. I do web development for them. I also, for most of my career, been a trainer. I train people in the Microsoft applications, mostly Excel, Microsoft Project, Teams, things like that. So I've kind of done a little bit more business-wise lately than the charity, but at the same token, I want to make sure that doesn't die. That's to me the most important thing that I can do right now.
Well, you brought up some really valuable points considering there's this pandemic. I know I'm involved with the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, and it's hard to do events, and doing them virtually isn't the same. And imagine doing a virtual NHL game. That would be that would be interesting. So you had mentioned to me also that you're working on something very exciting, a new app. Can you share more about that?
Yeah. So when I first got sick, I did a lot of research on possible surgeons. And my whole goal was to I had ulcerative colitis, and my goal was to have a J pouch at some point. And I did a lot of research over the years, and I found a surgeon in New York who specializes in that. And long story short is in 2015, I'm going on my 5-year anniversary. I had to have my entire large intestine removed, rectum and anus, everything had to go due to a precancerous condition. And this surgeon told me about Rolf Benershka, who is a kicker, was a kicker in the NFL, one of the best ever. He's in the San Diego Chargers Hall of Fame. And Rolf and his partner, Patty McCord, have been working on an app that is really going to change the world, I think, for people with ostomy surgeries. It's amazing. It's an app that gives them all kinds of support, not only spiritually, but also mentally, and teaches people how to get through it, how their life can be so much better with the bag compared to what they believe it will be. It's just, I'm not a partner with them, but I've been able to, they've given me such a gift to be able to look at the app ahead of time. I'm looking at the prototype now and spending hours just kind of going through everything, checking the links, and it's going to be an amazing thing for people. I really can't wait till it's up and running.
Well, congratulations for your involvement in that. That must be very rewarding. For those who are listening who are not sure what an ostomy is or a J pouch, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times people with inflammatory bowel disease are able to find remission through medication. And for me, that wasn't the case. I wound up with a precancerous condition called high-grade dysplasia. And a J pouch would be if they could use part of your small intestine to make a reservoir so you could use the bathroom like normal, even if your colon is removed. Unfortunately for me, with the high grade dysplasia, they have to leave some of the mucosa from the colon behind to do the J pouch. And for me, that would have been dangerous because I had very highly precancerous cells. So what I have is called an ileostomy. I have no colon at all. And my ileum, the small intestine, was brought to my stomach, and I wear a bag. A lot of people know about a colostomy bag. I don't think a lot of people know what an ileostomy bag is, but it's very, very similar. So that's what I'm going to have for the rest of my life. But it was life-saving surgery, and I think what Rolf is doing, he also kicked in the NFL for 7 years with the bag. So I always told Rolf, thanks, even though he didn't know me, thanks for being such an inspiration, because I thought my life was over, and it's not. It's so much better.
Well, thank you for being transparent and sharing that. And as you know, the Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn brand is all about inspiring hope and stories of overcoming adversity. So you were inspired by him, and now you're inspiring so many other people. I'm definitely inspired by you. You've accomplished so much. You always have a smile on your face, and you're always giving back. So thank you for being that kind of person.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. And I think we talked about this on the television show. I think that the thing is, people don't realize that when you see strong people, that they're always strong. I think that's what I didn't get. When I would have a bad day or a bad month even, I would think, well, that's because I'm weak. All these strong people that I see, the Rolf Benershkas and all those people out there, the Dr. Jacquelyn's that are strong people, I always thought, well, they always are strong. And I think that's a key thing that we got to spread to people, is that even strong people have weak moments. It's not 100%. So it doesn't define you if you have a bad couple of days. There are times where, I felt like it was hopeless. I think a lot of people feel that now with the pandemic. There's a feeling, I feel it once in a while of, is this ever going to end? Is there light at the end of the tunnel, or, how do you get through it? But I think
I
strong people find a way eventually.
Yes, and I love what you just touched on, because I think that myself too, that there are definitely times when I don't have it together. But what I say to myself is just acknowledge what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You're not despair, you're not hopelessness, you're just feeling that right now, and then let it go. And sometimes it can go very quickly, and other times, maybe it's going to hang around for an hour or so, and then I'll be like, that's it, goodbye. We have things to do. So I think strong people like to align with other strong people,
Right.
and and share tips and strategies about how you can overcome certain things. And regardless of what it is that we're going through, we all learn strategies and like to share them. So I think that that's also a good benefit of a podcast.
Yeah, and I think for me at least, I thought age would make that easier. I thought, well, when I was 14, and I had told a lot of people about, I struggle with mental illness, with anxiety, depression, and OCD, and I always thought, well, I'm 14. When I'm 18, it'll go away because I'll be older, more mature. And then at 18, I thought, nah, all right, when I'm 25, I'll be older. I'm 45 years old, and it's still a battle. It's never going to be uh, something that's going to be gone. And I think the key is you just have to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and you just can't give up.
Another valid point. I'm 57 and I've had ulcerative colitis since I was 20 something, and I keep thinking, oh, it's going to go away, but no, here it is. So what do we do with these things? We have to learn how to deal with them, and not even deal with them, but excel with these situations, because then that enables us to help other people. So I know that that's what you're doing, and I love some of the pictures I've seen over time on Facebook about your record-setting goals with weightlifting. What's going on with that?
I actually have the bar loaded up for after this interview. So yeah, I'm trying to become the first ileostomate that I know of, or actual ostomate period that I know of, to bench 405 pounds. Got my bench press up to about 385 right now, and feeling good. I mean, this is something that was supposed to not be in the cards for me, right? I mean, they tell people with an ostomy that, you shouldn't lift heavy weight, but at the same time, my surgeon said, you got to live your life. And weightlifting has been a part of my life since I was about 12 or 13 years old. So I just wasn't ready to let it go yet.
And good for you that you didn't, because look where you are now. And Justin, I'd love to hear, how do you mentally prepare yourself when you're going over to the bench? When you see the bench, you see the weights, you get onto the bench, like what goes through your minds?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I load it up, when I get to where I'm about to be to my 1 rep max, there is intimidation. I mean, there really is. You look at the weight and you think to yourself, man, oh man, this is a ton of weight on this bar. The bar's bending and it's like,
Ending, yeah.
yeah. So, I put on music, a lot of 80s music because that's my comfort zone. That's what I grew up with, and that's what psychs me up and gets me excited about it. And I just try to think about, it's only going to take a few seconds for me to get that weight off my chest and straight up. So, hey, look, it's like anything else. Some days you're successful and you do really well and you surprise yourself, and other days doesn't go as well. But um, I think the key is, even on those bad days, work as hard as you possibly can, even if you're feeling weak. But you're right. You have to psych yourself up. You really do have to have you have to picture that you're going to do it. I have videos on my YouTube channel. I watch them sometimes. As egotistical as that might sound, I want to see myself being successful doing that. So they help me to say, hey, you did it before, you can do it again.
How can we find your YouTube channel, by the way?
It's actually called World's Strongest Ostomate. That's the name of the YouTube channel.
Excellent.
I also have one for the charity. It's Checkmates Charitable Association. That's our other YouTube channel. I try to keep that separate. They're two different things, but yeah, I mean, it was always a goal of mine. I don't know why. I mean, I grew up in South Philadelphia, where it was a pretty tough neighborhood, and there was people really did look up to strong people, physically strong people, and I think that's part of my makeup. So
So prior to you having had this surgery, what would you say you were like in terms of a confidence level then compared to now?
um, I gotta be honest. I've always struggled with confidence, and I think I still do today. For me, there was never this is enough. I'm the kind of person that if I bench press 405 pounds, I'll celebrate for a day, and then the next day I'll say, well, how close can you get to 450 pounds? So it really is. It's never enough, and in some ways, I think that's probably a good thing because it does drive me to try to do better and do more and more. But there's an emotional and mental price that you pay for being in trying to be that way. So you know, I think I'm probably more confident now, knowing that the surgery's behind me and that this will help inspire people. But I don't know if I'll ever be at a point where I say that's enough and I'm done. I don't think that's going to happen.
Is it possible that you could be having a very positive self image, but you just are the kind of person who likes more?
I think it's a mix of both. I really do. I think that I do like who I am. I don't talk about, I talk about things that I do in the charity, but I'm happy with what I do because I really am honest. And I get that from my parents. It's just amazing. I think of, when Jesus said, feed those who are hungry and visit those in prison. My parents actually literally do those things, not figuratively. I mean, they go visit a gentleman who was in prison. My dad was his probation officer, and they literally go every couple months to visit him in jail. I mean, he's a lifer. They feed people at a soup kitchen. And it's hard not to have some of those traits when you live with people like that, So,
They're beautiful traits, beautiful qualities.
yeah.
So, how did you get involved with the Checkmates charity?
I had gotten ulcerative colitis pretty young. I was 27, just about to turn 28. And after about 10 years, I decided that it was time to try to do something to help people with with the disease. I was always limping along. I was always one of those people who I wasn't in terrible health, but I certainly was never in remission. So I felt like that was a way I could fight back because it was always a I don't want to say a losing battle, but I was always holding on by my fingertips, trying to stay ahead of ulcerative colitis. And I knew that eventually, I guess in my heart, that I was going to wind up not, I don't want to say losing the battle because I have a bag, but I was not successful in avoiding what I was afraid of. I thought maybe I could get by and just live the rest of my life on medication. So that made me want to do more and try to fight back a little bit. And that's how it started. Ironically, it was just a few months after we got started. We had our first NHL alumni game when I got the news that I was going to need to have everything taken out. So it's pretty quick. It was kind of ironic.
Right around the corner.
Within
And
months.
what purpose does the charity serve?
So we support the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America, the United Ostomy Associations of America, and we're working like crazy to try to also set something up in Canada as well with some of the ostomy and CCF Canada. We want something up there. I have some friends in Toronto, some former NHL players that if not for the pandemic, they were going to give us a rink to play at no charge, and we really were going to have a nice international type of event. So those are the organizations that are going to benefit from us.
That's terrific. Congratulations on that. And you know, I'm a big advocate of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation myself. I'm just wondering, how did the NHL get involved?
Well, I have been a hockey fan my entire life. I played hockey in high school and I played in college, and I decided that I wanted to try to marry the two things, try to find a way to make money and bring awareness to Crohn's and colitis and ostomy, and also have it done through hockey. And we played our first game in 2015 with the Flyers alumni, and it's grown since then. And now we're branching out to the NHL alumni. So we're getting players from other teams involved. And it's just incredible to step on the ice with people that you grew up idolizing, and you just can't believe that you're on the same line as Brian Propp. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That is amazing. When do you envision the next event? Do you have something planned for next year?
Well, we have the same plan that we did before. We have everything in place. It's just a matter of when will the pandemic allow us to do it. I'll tell you what, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation doctors are amazing. We had the game scheduled for April, and I said to Paul Geller, who runs the Philadelphia chapter, said, Paul, maybe we could do it in the fall. And Paul's exact words to me were, Justin, don't even think about it in the fall. Our doctors are already telling us that the fall is going to be a problem. And man, they were right on. I mean, this was back in March when we had that conversation. So
That's
I don't know.
amazing.
I mean, I can't see it being in at least until spring of 21, I would think, at the earliest, if not later.
So if everything goes well, it might be in April.
If everything goes well, April's a possibility. Yeah.
Good. Well,
The
let's
problem
keep
is the
it.
planning is so heavy that if we plan it and then we don't do it again in April, you just wasted all that time again. So I really want to make sure that it's something that is feasible. Plus, too, remember, we have so many people that would be in attendance who are immunocompromised, and in a large setting like that, that's not a really good idea. So.
Right, definitely not. I think I read today that there might be a vaccine available in November, but I guess it'll be a matter of if it is available, who's going to be getting it. I know it won't be me. So wait and see how
Yeah,
some other folks do.
it's a little quick. It's concerning, I think.
Yes, I agree. So let's move on to a happy subject, which is your writing of this book that's coming out soon. What is the book about?
Well, the book's about two things. It's about my first battle with mental illness and how that kind of shaped my life growing up. And then secondly, of course, it's about living with the chronic disease of ulcerative colitis, and then of course having the ostomy afterwards. And really, I'm struggling a lot with trying to find the title for it. It's actually fully written. It's been edited. It's ready to go. It's just Rolf Benersky again is going to write the foreword for it. And once he does that, I'm going to have to figure out a title. It's difficult because it's about so many different things, mental illness, inflammatory bowel disease, and then also the ostomy. So try to find a way to get a title that will bring it all together, tie it in.
What about something in reference to your autobiography?
You know, I guess again, maybe it's my own insecurities, but I always wonder if people will look at me sideways and say, "What have you done to be able to have written an autobiography?" Um, I'm not famous. I haven't done anything that's overly successful. So I've been trying to avoid focusing on me personally, but more on the battle and the journey itself. So I think that's what's holding me up a little bit.
Well, if I may, I think being famous is relative, right? Because there are a lot of famous people who have not done anything really terrific. They've just made a movie or acted in something. But
Right.
you actually are a change agent. You are transparent. You are putting yourself out there. You are helping other people. So to me, that does make you special and does make you famous in a more important way. So I think people would love to hear your story because it is personal and it is your story.
Yeah, Jacalyn,
Somebody,
good.
I was going to say, someone's going to read it and they're going to see themselves in that book. And they're going to say, oh my gosh, there's been such a stigma about mental illness or about having IBD that I never could talk about it. And here someone wrote a book about it. That gives me the courage that maybe I'll go talk to somebody about what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And I was going to say that, you and I both have talked about there are certain diseases that people just don't want to discuss because they're embarrassing. And
Right.
I I had two of them. Mental illness is one that people. I remember being a kid and I was talking about seeing my psychiatrist, and my grandmother shot me a look like, "You don't say that out loud. You can't say that. People hear it."
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, I'll share this with you. The other day, I think it was 2 days ago, I was talking to a friend of mine and she said, oh, how are you doing? We haven't spoken in a while. And I said, well, my ulcerative colitis is back. I'm in a lot of pain. And I went into a couple of details of what had happened that day. And she said, I don't want to hear that. That's disgusting. Why are you talking about that? And I said, hey, I think you're the one who has the problem
Right.
because I'm just telling you what's really going on with me. And for some reason, you're finding it uncomfortable to talk about. So it's really, you're the one who has the problem.
That's the
So
truth.
that's what I think about anyone who would say something about your life. They're the one that has the problem. You're out there talking about it, bringing awareness to it. So that's a humanitarian thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, it was weird being in my 20s and 30s and buying diapers,
Yeah,
hoping that, they would think I was buying them for my grandmother or my grandfather and they were for me.
right. I
I,
know
it's tough.
we it's really tough, and especially as an adult that like I just had an accident 2 days ago. I was going on a TV show, like, okay, what am I going to do now? And you know what, I got myself together and nobody knew. I knew, but years ago I probably would have just sat and stayed in the car and cried and just maybe
Right.
gotten myself home somehow. And I thought, no, I got work to do, I'm going to get it together. So that's my point. I think as we get older, we have life experiences that we can share to help other people who were where we were or
Right.
who are where we were. So I think that it's incumbent upon us to keep telling our story. And if we help one person, that makes a big difference.
It really
So
does.
keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you're covering all angles here. And again, let's not forget that you're a husband and a dad.
Right.
What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to keep on pushing with the weightlifting. Like I said, we're in a holding pattern right now at the charity, but it's not that I'm forgetting about it. I'm still trying to work with it and try to find the hardest thing I think is trying to find sponsors because it's again something that people don't like to really get involved in. So to get people to sponsor an event for inflammatory bowel disease, it's not cancer, it's not diabetes, it's not Alzheimer's disease where people really kind of jump into that. I think that part of the reason is our community so quiet, a lot of people don't realize how many people actually have inflammatory bowel disease
Mhm.
or
True.
how many people have an ostomy. When
It's
I,
very true.
the surgeon said to me, because I told him, I remember saying to him, dying would be the worst thing that could happen to me. The second worst thing that could happen would be having to have a bag, even temporarily, let alone permanently. And he turned to me and he said, "You see that waiting room out there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I guarantee you there are 20 or 30 people in that waiting room that have an ostomy and you don't even know it." And I thought, wow. You know,
Yeah, that's a valid point. We think we know what's going on with other people, and other people think they know what's going on with us, and they have no idea. And what I always say is, you see me, I have my makeup on, my hair is done, but you didn't see me 20 minutes before when I was crawling to get to the bathroom. You know what I
right,
mean? Like
right.
it's just it's the way that it is. So I think not judging other people, right? You and I are big on that, not judging and forgiving people who do judge, because there's certainly a lot of people out there making judgments. And I just forgive them because they're not as evolved, I would say.
That's a good point. It really is. And, like you talked about accidents. I mean, I remember having one, and I was teaching a class at a pharmaceutical company in front of 12 people, had an accident right in the front of the room. I mean, it's like,
Mm.
how do you avoid that? It's
What did
right
you
there
do?
for everybody to see, and it
What,
was,
what did you do?
I went to the bathroom, I cleaned myself up in a sink, and then I drove to a clothes store and bought clothes and got changed and cleaned up again in the bathroom. But yeah, like you said, you want to just crawl up in a ball.
It's mortifying. I remember, and when I was in my corporate job, I was at this hotel. I sold meetings and events, and we were in Florida at this five-star resort. And the travel directors who work for our company, they were there, showing people which way to go. And this man came from the street. He was all dressed up. He was in a suit. He was with a woman, and they were literally running. And you could see from down his pant leg all the way out to his shoe, like across the, and the travel director started pointing at him and laughing. And I pulled them aside and I said, "You have no idea what that man is going through. You've no idea. First of all, the pain that he's probably in, not emotionally, the physical pain that he's probably in, just trying to get somewhere where he's not standing anymore." And I realized a lot from that, here are these grown women that are making fun of someone who's suffering. And I thought there's still so much work that we have left to do to educate people about what's going on. And when you talk about mental illness, I had someone call into my show the other day. I used to work with her in my corporate job years ago, and
Mhm.
she is bipolar. And she called into the show and she wanted to share. And she had kept it a secret for so long. And you have to give credit to people like that. People, what you're doing, people need to hear that I look at you, you look completely normal, in air quotes, whatever that is, right?
Right.
But yet you have gone through so much and you're so strong because of it. And now you're helping other people. So again, thank you for everything that you do. You are an inspiration.
I appreciate that. I remember when I did 2 years on QVC, and you're in front of, I forget what it was, but might have been 60 million people. And I would sell Dell computers on QVC, and nobody knew I was wearing a diaper on those shows. And there was the panic that I would have an accident on television in front of 60 million people, and YouTube had just come out then, and you think to yourself, you'll never get out from under that. I mean, that would be on YouTube, and you'd have
Right?
a zillion shares.
I
But it
know.
was either that, go through the fear and do it, or lose an opportunity. So I just sucked it up and did it.
Yeah, and that was really strong of you. I know for me, because I have the ulcerative colitis and it's, whatever, 30 years, it's like I have to have a plan before I leave the house.
Right.
I have to plan when I'm going to eat, know I'm going to get sick. Sometimes I just eat while I'm in the bathroom, right? And then I have to look at the clock and go, okay, because I like to walk between 6 and 8 miles every day. And I know as soon as I leave here and I'm out there by myself, and my mom is she's not leaving the house, so she's not driving, she's not going to be picking me up, but I mentally say to myself, you better be really sure that you can leave and do this, because once you're outside, you're on your own. And
I,
sometimes I don't go, I don't leave, but usually I'm okay.
It's a terrible feeling. It really is. I will say with the bag though, that fear has been alleviated because I don't have to worry about it anymore. You know, that's the another positive to look at. My GI said to me, "You will find positives that you don't even think about until you have the surgery, and they'll pop up and you'll recognize it."
That's huge. And Justin, what I'm also wondering about is since you got the surgery, has your anxiety, has any of the mental illness been suppressed or eliminated? Or are they
Unfortunately,
not
not.
related to each other? No. Okay.
Yeah, because it was before I was sick. You know, so I mean, almost my first memories, I can remember being anxious and being depressed. Yeah, I remember being a little kid and I would say, I don't like myself. And my parents would say to me, well, you got to like yourself because you can't love other people unless you love yourself first. And, why would a 3 or 4 year old say those things? So I think I'm programmed that way. The way I was born. I think that's just the way my brain developed. And I'm not saying that I'm going to give into it, but I also know that I'm never going to be without it. It's always going to be a part of my life.
Well, I'm wondering since you realize all of this and it started from when you were a child, what do you see in your own children and how are you parenting them based on what you've been through?
We've actually seen some anxiety, especially in my youngest child, and she's 9, and we have her with a therapist every other week. And it's working out well. And I think, like my parents, we tried to nip it in the bud. My parents had me in therapy 3 days a week when I was 8. So that was really intensive therapy. Fortunately, our daughter, she's only going once every other week. And it seems to be helping. But it's almost like clockwork. You could actually see some of the things that I did at that age already coming out. And I don't want anybody to think that I've had a bad life, but it could have been easier. I don't want her to go through what I had to go through.
So, in her generation, do they talk about things like this? Do they talk about going to a therapist or do you keep that a secret?
With her peers,
Yes.
I would probably think that they don't even mention it at her age, at 9. Our oldest also went to therapy and doesn't need it anymore. She was really there for a little while. And again, it was for some anxiety. And she didn't want to mention it at all. She didn't want anybody to know. So I think there's still the stigma there. As far as we've come, I don't think it's gone.
Well, it's interesting more than ever. I know so many people who are going to a therapist. It's amazing to me. They say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to a therapist. I'm going to a therapist."
Right.
Whereas before, I know for myself, I went to a marriage counselor when I was married, and I've seen therapists over the years, but I haven't seen a therapist in a long time. But I've worked with a life coach. I'm a life coach, so I work with other life coaches,
Right.
and it's actually a great way to it's like you're talking to somebody but they have a certain skill set to bring out information that you have inside of you that you just don't even realize you have there. So I think it's whether you go to a therapist or whomever you go to, it shows that you want to change. It shows that you're open to learning, and I think that's a positive thing.
It is. It is. And my therapist has been amazing. His name is Dr. Andrew Borson, and I've been with him since 1997. And it's just, he helped me so much through the surgery and the shock of learning about it and the fear of cancer, because high grade dysplasia is like a precursor to colon cancer. So, with anxiety, and then you hear that on top of it, it was tough. So I don't think I would have made it through without him. I think obviously my family, but also Dr. Borson.
It's great that you found someone you like to work with and you've been together for a long time. So that really speaks volumes about his work and also your willingness to ask for help.
Yeah, you have to. Anybody who thinks they could do all of this alone, it's just not going to happen. You really do need support.
Yesterday, I was speaking to someone. She is the founder of the wellnessuniverse.com and a really fascinating person. She said something that really resonated with me, which is that we're seeing a number of things or patterns, regardless of where you live in the world, that are developing as a result of this pandemic. And whether that's emotional, physical, financial, all of the above, she said, we haven't seen anything until the fallout after the pandemic is gone.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And also a physician friend of mine, he said that we're going to see more autoimmune cases being diagnosed, first time diagnosis after the pandemic, because everybody's getting by, everybody's staying in, but yet what's going on inside of us is building and building and building and building. So we're going to need a lot of strong people to help support other people who are going to be going through similar situations. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy. But
Yeah.
we have people like you there. So
And you,
um, yes, yes, people like the two of us and this woman from the Wellness Universe. There's an incredible group of people. I wasn't even aware of it, Justin. My sister shared with me about all of these people who are in the wellness industry, that they are joined together for one common goal, which is to help others and provide an online repository of information. And I wasn't even aware of it. But
right.
there are thousands, probably tens of thousands of people who their whole life is about helping other people get well, physically, mentally. So I think it's great to be a part of that.
It really is. I guess the hard part for me is trying to find ways to make money while doing it, because the reality is I have a family and I can't just be altruistic to the point where, I'm just giving all my time away. So that's been the hard part for me, I think, is trying to find ways to bring in income while doing the things that are important to me.
I'm right there with you. And I told you I had my corporate job. I left that and I've been focused on Dr. Jacalyn and rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I've done a lot of things without charging. And here's an interesting scenario. So I got certified to teach yoga during the pandemic and I taught for free. So about 3 weeks ago, I thought, you know what, I'm going to charge $7. Now, when I was going to yoga, I was paying $20, $25 every
Sure.
class.
Sure.
So unless I got a package. So as soon as I started charging $7, the number of people coming to class went way down. It was two people, one person, no one. And I just think it's so ironic because if I was going back to free, I'm sure that people would be back again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things to do is to get people to spend money. I mean, I was talking to my therapist the other day about the frustration. I try to run classes for the Microsoft products. And these are things that can help people get better jobs or get a job if they need one or move up in their company. And I'm charging so little. And yet, it's very difficult to get people to pay money for it. And I think we have a tendency to pay money for things that we find fun. Like we buy toys
Right.
and gadgets and computers and all kinds of things that we want to enjoy. But the things that we really need, I think sometimes they're a much harder sell.
You just made me think of something. Have you tried networking with career coaches?
I haven't.
So yesterday, I'm going to introduce you to someone. Yesterday, I interviewed a career coach, and he's also a certified professional resume writer. And people like that, if they have a client who's coming to them, you have a perfect service that would work, complementary, hand in hand with what they're doing.
That's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I have a business coach. Her name is Ashley Owens, and her company is Ashley Assist, but she's the networking queen. So she teaches you all about the proper ways to network. And believe it or not, there are certain things that you should do and certain things you shouldn't do. You don't go to a function and just walk up and go, "Oh, hi, Justin, here's my card. Why don't you give me a call about XYZ?" No, not at all.
Right.
So she's the one who told me to find people who work in complementary industries or careers as you, and then try to help each other. So you offer maybe somebody in your network that you can introduce them to, and you ask them if they can refer someone that they're working with, and then that's how it works. So I've got a couple of people that I've interviewed recently that are three people actually. I'm going to send an email and introduce you to all three of them.
I appreciate that. I have trouble, and again, I don't know if it's the self-confidence. I always worry about, will people see me as a huckster? If I try so hard to sell, will they look at me and go, "Oh, here he comes again. He's got something else he wants us to pay money for." And I don't know. I mean, I think that I have trouble finding the middle ground, you know.
Listen, I can totally relate to you. Another story. So I have my Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn show on Fridays at 5,
Right.
and there's no charge. And I have sponsors, and I'm starting a show on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and a second show. And so I have now two producers, and I have to pay them out of my own pocket every show. So
Right.
I thought for the business show, I'm going to charge 250. And the Friday show is already booked through the middle of December, if not the end.
Oh
So I
wow.
put 250 up there, and I thought, well, people are not going to be able to do Friday. If they want to come on the show, they can't come on until, January. They're going to go to Wednesday. No one went to Wednesday.
It's
As soon as
amazing.
I took off the 250 and I wrote back to because people wrote to me, oh, I didn't realize there was a fee. So as soon as I wrote back on waiving the fee, now they're signing up. I'm just like, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
if you figure out how to do it, please tell me.
Yeah, and we have things that would be useful for people. I mean, it's not that we're selling snake oil. You know,
Right,
these are things that would be
exactly.
helpful, but it's tough to sell.
And there are people out there who are making money. Like in my family, my sister doesn't work, but my brother-in-law, my nephews, their wives, girlfriends, every one of them has the same job that they've had before with all their benefits. And I'm really happy for them. They're all doing well. So
Sure.
my point is, people are making money. It's not like everyone is in a situation where they're a business owner. There are people who have businesses that are doing really well, and obviously some that are, the restaurant industry, retail, they're not doing well at all. So
Sure.
what I've been told is, and I'll share this with you and our listeners, I think you have your service, you put together a new package maybe, and you put a price tag to it. Do some research, see what other people are charging for it, and then just hold the line. Like I didn't have to drop to 250. I could have waited more than 2 days, right? I could have
Right.
said, this is what it is. But the way I am, I'm thinking, oh, I really shouldn't be charging. But I think look at what other people are doing and then come up with a brand new package so it doesn't look like it's the same thing. Maybe it's the same components, but you label it a different way and then you
Right.
market it to a
Right.
different audience. And I think people will pay. And another thing is I learned, get people to write recommendations for you on LinkedIn. This guy I interviewed yesterday is 710 recommendations on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And he gives everyone he meets a recommendation, and then they in turn give him a recommendation. So what I learned from the networking queen is it's kind of counter to what he said. She said, you don't ever ask someone for something. When you first meet someone, the first 2 or 3 times that you interact with them, you offer them something.
Right. Right.
So, for example, I said to her, well, when someone's on my show, what could I do to thank them? And she said, write them a LinkedIn recommendation. I said, okay. She said, don't you ask them for one, you write them one. And I thought, okay, so that's after our show today, I'm going to be writing a recommendation for you. And so maybe you could do that in your own network and see if that, if you have any new contacts, or maybe if people are reaching out to you for your services.
Yeah, I appreciate the advice. Yeah, it's very difficult. Like you're saying it yourself. It's just, yeah, money's tight, I guess, and people don't want to spend it unless it's absolutely necessary or something that they're going to enjoy necessarily. You know, I can't say that you're going to enjoy
Right.
Microsoft Excel. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't call it a fun Saturday night out, but it's important. I mean, it's something that will help you in your career.
Sure.
So
We as business people know, I mean, Excel is really valuable. I mean, I've used it. I still use it today. It's definitely worthwhile. So I think it's just a matter of getting the word out there. And then also, you and I both have to work on this, I think, if you don't mind me saying, but we both have to be confident in that we have something valuable to offer, and that value equates to some price tag because we have bills to pay.
exactly, exactly. It almost feels like when before I was married, trying to approach a girl at a bar or at a club or whatever, that to me that was always the hardest thing, was to, because you're selling yourself, you're trying to show, oh, I'm this guy, and you should go out with me, and it's the same feeling. It's almost that same anxiety for me anyway when I'm trying to sell. Yeah.
Right, right. I know that. By the way, I've decided that I'm completely giving up on men. I'm dedicating my life to my mother. I am. I'm not kidding you. But no, I know what you're saying. I remember that feeling. You know, if you were at a dance and you're the
Mm,
only person standing at the wall, everyone's dancing. You're hoping somebody comes up to you, and then what if they do come up to you? What are you supposed to say? That whole thing. And
right.
so, being married, you don't have to deal with any of that anymore, right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that was for me very, very difficult. You know, and but
Yeah.
I'm seeing it again, just in a different way, in a different setting with sales. I go to a networking event and I'm petrified to talk about what I have to offer because I don't want to seem like a huckster. I don't want to seem like somebody desperate to sell something. But
Well, what if you just looked at it as you're helping someone? People
that's what
need.
I'm gonna have to do.
Yeah, just so it's called changing your prism, right? Instead of looking at it from the way you've been looking at it, look at it from a different angle. So that's what I remind myself of every day, that it's that tape recorder that keeps playing that same story for us over and over. It's, you know, we
Yeah,
don't use tape recorders anymore, right? So throw it out the window with all those negative thoughts, that negative self-talk.
exactly.
Yeah. So what are you going to do now to change what you're doing so you can make money?
I'm gonna do what you said. I'm gonna try to think about it. I really do have things that can help other people, you know, and put that into practice. And also look for your email with the contacts.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it right here.
Yeah, I
Well, I'll
appreciate
share this one more comment with you. So,
it. Sure.
you know, I have my insurance licenses, and I never did anything with it because I never felt comfortable talking to people about insurance. So what I mean is I never wrote one policy. And it's interesting because when the licenses come up for renewal, I'm not going to renew them. My real estate license was just up for renewal, and I was doing the continuing education. I had 3 hours of classes left, and I
Right.
thought I had until August 31st. Well, it turns out it was the 29th. So I called and I can reactivate the license. I have 5 years. And I thought to myself, what am I don't care about real estate or insurance. I don't want to ask people about buying a house or buying insurance. But my point is, I see these emails come through all the time on LinkedIn because I have insurance on my LinkedIn profile. And
Right.
people are right out there, you know, I can sell you insurance. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a turn off with the insurance. I'm so
I
glad I
know.
never went on that route, right? But they could come about it a different way, which, you know, you could frame it up any way you want. Oh, during the pandemic, have you considered that XYZ might go wrong? And do you have the confidence that you have the coverage? You like some different type of approach instead of like, I want to sell you insurance.
I know. I know. And that's just like you're saying. You don't want people to see your name and think, oh, here they come again with more sales pitch.
Right, right. You know, I have to share with you that even with the charity, I started feeling like that because for
Yep.
Crohn's Colitis Foundation, I'm involved with every single thing. And I have a very, very wealthy friend, rich friend actually, who said to me, you know, Jacalyn, we get asked by everyone for money, and you've come to us 5 times this year, and we don't want to say no. But yet the foundation says, well, what about Mr. and Mrs. X? You know, they've been big contributors in the past. So I sat down, I said, you know, that's a really valid point. Thank you for sharing. I didn't look at it from that perspective. I don't want you to see me as constantly coming to you for donations. So I just stopped asking them altogether.
And that goes back to the same thing I was saying with selling. It's this. I have the same problem with trying to solicit for donations. I mean, I know people who run humongous companies that are probably upper million to billionaires, and it's difficult for me. I would always hope that they would see what I was trying to do and say, hey, maybe we should write Justin a check for this and help out. Sometimes it takes the ask, you know, sometimes you just have to.
Right. You don't know if you don't ask. Now, if you ask and you get pushback, well, you know, then maybe try to peel back the onion and understand, well, what's the pushback about? And
Right.
one thing that I got for charity, and I think I mentioned this to you before, I have a good friend who also has, she has Crohn's disease. But I'd asked her every event that I was doing, would you make a donation? And finally she said, you know, I know you think because I'm a patient that I should make a donation. She
Right.
said, but I don't believe the money's really going where it's supposed to be going. And I said, well, there's a charity checker that you can use to see. And she said, I don't believe any of that because there's been so much fraud. I said, well, there's fraud in many things. I said, why don't you try to take the positive approach that the money is going for research and development and that you're helping maybe the younger you, maybe somebody your daughter's age, that why don't you look at it from that perspective? And then she made a donation. So
That's good work. I mean, to lay it out.
yeah, it's exhausting. But what I see for you is if you go to your LinkedIn, come up with a different package. I hear this word package all the time, but package of services,
Sure.
and then reach out through InMail. This is what I was doing religiously every week. I'm not doing it that much, but Sunday I contacted 27 people. Don't ask me why, but I pay for LinkedIn Premium so that I can contact anyone. And I send an InMail saying, hey, XYZ contact connection. I see we are connected, but I'd really like to learn more about what you're doing. Would you be open to a 20-minute networking call? And one person in New York said no. Everyone else said yes.
Wow.
And so then I have the networking call. I don't talk about myself. I want to find out about them. And if they ask me about me, then I'll tell them. And I've gotten people to say, you know what, I don't think I'm a good person for you, like let's say for my TV and media. But
Right.
I know XYZ wrote a book and I think they would be a good connection for you. So what I'm finding is that more people are open to connecting during this pandemic just through something as innocent as a LinkedIn InMail.
That's a great idea. I appreciate that.
Yeah, try that, and then try leaving some recommendations for people too. I'm writing that down, recommendations. So my friend, we are almost at an hour. I can't even believe it.
It goes quick.
It just goes so fast. So what would you like to leave our audience with today?
I guess just keep pushing forward, and no matter what, whether it's the pandemic that has you down, or if it's an autoimmune disease, or I have a cousin who was just diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he's not quitting. He said, he's not happy about it, but he's not going to just roll over and die. And I think that where there's life, there's hope. So you just have to keep going forward. I think that's the main message of anybody in any walk of life.
I agree with that. And I also think keep reaching out and
Yeah.
and making yourself available to other people, because everyone has something to offer. Everyone has a story to share.
Plus, it's cathartic for you too.
Yes, absolutely. So we don't have a title yet for the book,
But yeah,
but where can we find the book? Will it be on Amazon or where will it be?
that's the goal, is to get it on Amazon and
Okay.
sell it there. And I'm hoping that maybe we'll get some publicity with the Crohn's Colitis Foundation and also the United Ostomy Association of America, and maybe some mental health groups might be willing to take a look at it and promote it. Some of the proceeds are going to go to the UOAA and CCF. So, I'm hoping to make a little bit of money, recoup my cost, and be able to donate some too, and I'll be happy.
Excellent. That's wonderful. So I know you're on social media. Where can our listeners find you?
A couple different places. You have checkmatescharity.com. So that's the charity itself. My business website is Just For You, spelled out JustForYoutC.com. And I know we didn't talk about this, but I have my the documentary about the 1984 to 1988 Flyers called Keenan's Kids. And that website's going to come out pretty soon too. It's Keenan'sKidsDoc.com. So trying to get my hands in a few different things.
What was that one again? Keenan'sKids.com?
Keenan's Kids. I think I left it as doc or documentary. I can't remember off the top of my head.
DOC?
Keenan's Kids, DOC, I think, .com. If not, it's documentary spelled out. I just, off the top of my head, can't remember.
And your YouTube pages again are?
World's Strongest Ostomate, Justin Mirigliani, and also Checkmates Charitable Association.
Wonderful. Well, it has certainly been a pleasure seeing you again and chatting, rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I forgot my name for a minute. So,
I appreciate
Justin Mirigliani, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on one of my shows or hearing from you, and maybe you'll be in my book if you're open to being interviewed.
Absolutely, be an honor to do that. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Well, that's a wrap for today. Thank you for joining us on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn podcast and Justin Mirigliani. We'll see you later.